Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the SuperNova Astrology update for November 24th through December 1st, 2025. Well, last week we had this very powerful new moon in Scorpio at the very end degrees of Scorpio, with not too far from Black Moon Lilith, the sun and the moon together with Mercury all across from Uranus in Taurus. So very powerful energy of lining up the sun and Mercury coming together during the Mercury retrograde, having their powwow. It's about coming to a greater understanding, giving us a timeline of this bigger arc of information and clarity that's coming in between now and as they come together in January, Mercury and the sun. So in January, there's this dynamic and royal procession of all of our personal planets, perhaps graduating to a new level of consciousness, coming together to celebrate, lining up and meeting up with each other. In just like this week, we have Mercury and Venus, and a couple weeks ago, we had Mercury and Mars and Mercury and the sun. And so when all of these planets meet back up, they're also going to be one by one going and together meeting up with Pluto. And it's kind of like going on one hand, a procession of a celebration, on the other hand, a pilgrimage to the mountain of, Pluto, this, the king of our own permission to access the psychic and intuitive abilities within our own being. The problem is what we're figuring out through this whole evolution is that these psychic abilities that are natural birthright, that we've worked on for many evolutions and this many lifetimes in this evolution, but those same forces have been misused, by energies for self-gratification, to control people, to, accumulate resources. And so there's this whole dynamic where both those that didn't want the mysteries to come out because they didn't want to awaken the people, and those that didn't want the mysteries to come out to be stolen or get in the hands of the wrong people, both of those factions agreed very strongly in a covenant way to hide these secrets. But we're in the age of disclosure, and so it's like everything that's been hidden can be associated with shame. And now it's time to clear all of this, right? Like, this is the energy of this amazing time we're living in, of this Grand Water Trine. Back in the middle of October, we started feeling the beginning of this Grand Water Trine with Mercury, the first one to come into this energy of the Grand Water Trine, joining Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, trining up with Jupiter in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces. Jupiter and Saturn for the last couple weeks have been in exact trine at 25 degrees, so powerful, because 2 and 5 is the number of Christ consciousness, of shift, of change, of making a leap into a whole new reality. And so this is the energy that we're looking at with this lining up, because all the way through, because basically Mercury made that, came into the trine, this conjunction, Black Moon Lilith, trine Jupiter in Cancer, trine Saturn, and then turned retrograde. And in that time, the sun came into that trine, and before that, Mars did. And then Mercury goes back into the trine, Venus comes into the trine. So this last few days, Mercury's been back in the trine. Actually, that's for the second time, Mercury is in the Grand Water Trine from November 17th to the 27th. And it's very beautiful because Venus is going to be coming into the Grand Water Trine here, and she's going to be in the trine from the 24th to December 4th. So that overlap, when Venus and Mercury meet up for their powwow, for this journey that Mercury has gone in deep into Scorpio with Black Moon Lilith and all the other personal planets, right? It's almost like our feminine Venus finally has support to clear up the darkness, and get to the truth. And so this deep, deep journey into the subconscious, and that is also our feminine. It's also the deep mysteries that have been hidden. And the deep secret, the biggest secret that's been hidden from us, is who we really are. And that was this illumination that was coming through with this Sun, Mercury, Black Moon Lilith opposite Uranus last week. And so the saga continues, because right now it's like from that conjunction of Mercury and the Sun that happened on the 20th with that new moon until they come back together on the 21st of January and move into Aquarius together, that we are in this glorious discovery of and rapid adjustment, to whole new territory. Because at that time, when all these planets in January line up with come and hang out with Pluto, Pluto is just making it to 3 degrees. And so that's where Pluto took a retrograde, started retrograde back in May, right? So go back to May of this year, and whatever started is going to be resolved in that period of time, and that's close to when we move into the Chinese New Year of the fire horse, very different energy than the snake. So we're in a chapter that's so powerful and so profound, and it requires deep psychic healing of our subconscious. That's what this water trine is all about. The timeline moving forward, the Christ consciousness timeline, the greatest, most beautiful potential that's represented by Saturn and Jupiter coming together in this trine. It's saying that in order for us to claim our Christ consciousness timeline, we've got to clean up the subconscious, to atone, to heal, to whatever we need to do in our own psyche to overcome this war within, and to clean up Mother Earth from the infiltration and the energies that continually seek to take the creation forces and use them for destruction and distraction and delusion. Okay, so it's so crazy because as these personal planets have been going through this Grand Water Trine, they've also been making oppositions with Uranus as they come to the end of Scorpio and move over into Sagittarius. And at that same placement is a trine with Neptune at the very end degrees of Pisces. So that trine with Saturn, trine with Neptune. And so we haven't talked so much about it because it's kind of minor compared to all these things that are going on, but it's not really minor. And the energy of this is really coming forward like a tidal wave with the impending exact opposition of Black Moon Lilith and Uranus. So all of these planets and Mercury 3 times bouncing around like a pinball, between this opposition with Uranus. Mercury first opposed Uranus when Uranus was in Gemini still, right? And then the second 2 oppositions of Mercury retrograde with Uranus is with Uranus now in Taurus. So Uranus at the end degrees Taurus is an incredibly powerful message for us, or a time. It's saying this is the season, right? If you have not reclaimed your treasures, if you still do not feel worthy of the energy, the autonomy, the gifts, the soul strength, because this is the thing, the magicians and those, or whatever, like false prophets, magicians that want to use spiritual energy to perform acts in order to control and dominate the people. That's that misuse of those energies. And so, of course, we've all shied away from them, but we have to come back into those miracle energies, to these powers, to these things that we can perform, but only in alignment with Mother, which is also our higher self, the original dream of what we wanted to do in this evolution. So in order to come back into our powers, because they've been so misused, maybe not even by us, but by, some part of this whole, again and again, and maybe we've allowed this again and again, but it's like, in order for us to heal that, we have to come into our power in the right way, the righteous way, right? Like this is the teachings of Yeshua, Jesus. It's like the right use of creation forces, right? So creation forces used for personal gain or to show off, ego, whatever, that's destructive forces, that's going to end in a misalignment and create karma. And so it's like the whole roundabout thing of this whole evolution seems to be the story of the prophets and how the message from God comes through them, and yet they have to be human and they have to overcome the lower self and the lower nature. Now, are we these souls that wanted to so much overcome that lower nature and so much not want to create any more karma, and so much didn't want to be the oppressor, right? Like, that's not us as leaders, no. But did we so much want that the pendulum swung the other way, and now our karma is with the fact that we haven't stood up in our power, right? That we're so frightened of creating more karma and causing harm, right? Like that we're not doing anything. And that's something that came through the Edgar Cayce readings. You could call it the law of inaction, when you stand by and your will, your will doesn't engage with the righteous to be able to play your role, where you think maybe as spiritual we're trying to be so righteous, and the righteous thing is like to not interfere, right? Because we've interfered. That's kind of how we got here as advanced souls. We must have interfered where we shouldn't have interfered, right? And so now we're like, no interference, but then we're getting rolled over like a doormat again and again, And then how do you take back your power without creating more karma and harming, This is the miracle. I think this is the miracle, is that the rain falls and the sun shines equally on all of us, sinners on sinners, like the deep, evil, dark shit that's happening. But it's like where there is a human soul, there's redemption. And that it's like this separating out of this possibility for redemption from, this is the message from Mother, right now is this, we're in a separating out. This doesn't mean we're splitting and leaving people behind. It's a separating out vibrationally of the wheat from the chaff, right? Like, it's like, do you have the soul strength to hold your personality construct enough to get through this transition and keep your memory of who you are? And that's maybe the whole design of the forces, to all the way back in Atlantean time, is to prevent us from ever getting our memory before our memory is lost. Like, is this everything? Is this all the deepest, darkest secrets we need to uncover is really who we are? Like remembering in our Akashic records, in our soul, in our lineage, our sacred power of where the magical, mystical powers that are connected with Mother Earth and creation energy were always and only used in alignment. It's an interesting thing because part of Yeshua's whole deal was that and it feels like previous incarnations energetically, maybe he was working on this with a group of people, but it was all about saying, hey, Rudolf Steiner talks about how what he really did with the whole being crucified and resurrected was a mystery play. And it was like about through pictures and story and allegory and this play out of events, bringing people the picture of this mystery, which has long been hidden and unavailable to the regular person, right? And so Yeshua's core teachings on that level, according to what Steiner has seen, is about revealing these mysteries available for all, right? Like they've been hidden, we hid them ourselves, but then they were stolen, used that hiding and shame and stolen and then misused against us. Our own teachings, our own technologies, our own techniques. And so how can we get out of this if we can't go through it? Like, this is the thing. There's this energy of like, get me through this. How am I going to, like, this pressure. It's like so much pressure and being in the corner and being like, okay, there is no door from here, but maybe it's about remembering that I can dematerialize, and just walk right through the wall and not follow the rules, or, be willing to make that radical change that makes you, makes another alternate turn, available in this process. I mean, we're at this major 90-degree turn, and so it's a rapid adjustment. And this is one of the things coming forward from Mother, because I had talked about recently, it came through around this destructive energy, and that Mother is been associated with destructive energy, but that's not necessarily how she works. It's more decomposition. But it can also be, it's either decomposition or it's instantaneous transformation, right? So some of the situations in our life are requiring a slow decomposition, and other situations we're kind of preparing for more instantaneous shifting. And it's very strange to maintain these possibilities. And this is everything she says right now. It's just like, don't form an opinion about anything. Try not to plan too much vision, see, feel, love. But, part of the ego death, part of the hardest part of the ego death, excuse me, is the unknown. And this is so, for supernova souls, this is that feeling of free fall after we've dedicated our lives to knowledge and wisdom. But maybe we've only been able to access a small little fraction of this knowledge and wisdom. Because Uranus going back into Taurus is saying that this time is about us making sure that we've recovered that hidden wealth. And that we've not just recovered it, not just identified it, right? The treasure. But we've claimed it back as our own. In order to claim it back as our own, we have to feel worthy of it. We have to know it's ours, right? And this is the whole trick, right? Like we said, the quintessential trick is keeping us from knowing who we are. Because if we don't know who we really are, we don't know the treasures inside of us, then we'll never be able to claim them, will we? And then on top of that, overlay some trauma about causing catastrophes with those same treasures. And so basically, since Atlantean time, the technological treasures that can control reality have been in the wrong hands, and you could see that as this manifestation of the black cube. Saturn is a black cube. That Saturn, the energy of laws and rules and all that, got absconded and taken over, right? That was the egotistical leaders that came in and, had showed no mercy. And so it's kind of like a place of stuck energy and stuck souls around control-based authoritarian energy, but we know it's transforming. Because Saturn, it's like Saturn's also transforming. We're taking back our Christ consciousness timeline. So is that what's going on with this Saturn, a square Jupiter, like a dissolving, that disintegration of the rings of Saturn and the black cube, the false messages of control, mind control? It comes from Saturn. I don't know. So it's like vibrational frequencies that are about quarantining Earth, those rings. And the rings are remnants, supposedly, of an ancient cosmic war. But who knows? Because is space even real? Like, what's even going on out there? Because we actually have a firmament. Nikola Tesla said the stars are in the firmament. And the planets are in this firmament. It's a picture it's a projection. We are all going to get our minds blown. And that's the interesting thing around this disclosure. At the same time that we're like, oh, because December, I got this thing around through looking at a few birth charts, supernova birth charts, and being like this very powerful message that this massive revealing, and I think the energy started with this Scorpio new moon and the Sun-Mercury conjunction. So from that Sun-Mercury conjunction to the next Sun-Mercury conjunction in January, it's this revealing, but particularly December, like a flash of light, a revealing of who we really are, supernova souls, our hidden identities. that we had to stay hidden with the mysteries too, because you know what the real wealth is? In like spiritual lineage is lineage. Like there's these magical, mystical lineages. And from early on when I started to get the message about supernova souls, I saw this picture of that supernova, you need a certain body, right? Like you need a certain body to be able to have any chance of coming into your full faculties. And those are these mystical, magical lineages. But these mystical, magical lineages have been completely targeted, infiltrated, and made so sick. The sickest, most violent, crude, energies in the originally so beautiful lineage. And this is why supernova souls feel that they have this unspoken, this unknown call to heal their whole bloodline, heal their whole family. Like it's up to them. So we somehow feel responsible for this corruption of these mystical, magical lineages, because when we incarnated into them, a war was around us, perhaps. So very, very interesting energies coming up around this. And basically, if maybe this is part of the Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, is this lineage healing. And that, so the message that came through very early on with the supernova story around 2015, it was like these, you in order to incarnate and be able to come into your full potential of what you want to do in this earth evolution, you need a certain body, supernova soul. And this kind of correlates with what came through Rudolf Steiner, where he said that it would be increasingly difficult to find an appropriate body for an advanced soul because of, he even mentioned vaccinations 100 years ago, as interfering with our spiritual impulse. A direct and deliberate interference, planned long ahead, and the whole, it's not a new thing. That infiltration energy is also there with the sons of Belial and Atlantean time. It's an infiltration into our sacred. See, we're in quarantine right now, a technological quarantine. But one of the pictures that came through is that we had a natural, beautiful, organic quarantine while Earth had this beautiful garden to evolve, right? That was breached. That natural quarantine being breached allowed for the false mechanical grid to be born. And that started in Atlantean time. Literally doing things with land masses and structures, taking the ancient technology that was always used for spiritual ascension and healing and using it for control. And the whole modicum of that control, the whole idea behind it was, and the spell, it's like a spell or maybe a curse, we could call it. And it was on the future human being able to use their right and left brain together. It was that separation, right, of critical thinking, intellectual thinking and intuitive thinking. And so it's like, this is what we're doing. We're like finding our way back to that. So basically this message that as an advanced intuitive soul, and then in talking to supernova souls and being like, at this time when you were looking to choose a body to come in, and it was kind of like, well, you can have this body, but you'll never be able to come into your full potential. And supernova souls are, then what's the point? I'm not going to go to Earth with that body if I don't even have a chance of coming into my supernatural powers, that I want to go save the Earth with and be a part of Mother's original dream, because you were there at the beginning of the inception of this dream. It's encoded in you. But those have been attempted to be corrupted, and that's why coming back to Mother Earth cannot lead us back to our original code, our fraction, our faceted, beautiful, dynamic, rainbow essence expression of her original code. It's so glorious. And this is what we're moving into. And this is the energy of this Grand Water Trine. We've had a shift of energy this last couple of days with the sun moving into the sign of Sagittarius, right? And it's like this time of year, we're always about coming out of that Kali Yuga period of time of the year, facing the inner darkness. This is, based on the northern hemisphere, the weather and the change of the seasons in the northern hemisphere as a metaphor, right? And so we're facing those dragons and facing the darkness within of without and within in order to find our own light within. And then the Sagittarius, Scorpio into Sag is that Phoenix moment of like, oh, I went into the darkness and it was scary and I was lost and I didn't know what I was doing, but I did come out with a treasure. And then Sagittarius is like, what is the treasure and what are you going to do with the treasure, right? That's the quest. It's like the vision of the Holy Grail. And then Sagittarius is like, all right, let's go. Let's go find it. Let's go find the treasure. And this is an important energy for us, but also really a lot of pressure. That early degrees of Sagittarius and all the fire signs for supernova souls, it feels like this incredible impatience and pressure to do something you're here to do, And so that's really flaring up when that Mercury was in Sag. So we can feel a big surge of this energy coming when Mercury moves back into Sagittarius. It turns direct on the 30th of November and then comes back into Sagittarius on the 12th of December. And so that journey through the third and final time, this is from December 12th through the 17th, that third and final time through the early degrees of Sagittarius is when we can really get a way bigger picture of what this evolution has all been about and what in the heck we're doing here and what is our next steps and where we're going. But it's an expansive invitation to completely new territory, and understanding how quarantined we've been psychically, technologically, and with our own fear and shame around our own power, and just kind of feeling this release and permission within ourselves to step into that bigger self and get that way bigger picture of what's going on. Because going back to this certain body that supernova soul needs, and that send those supernova souls saying, okay, well, I only want the body that I have the potential to come into my higher power. Those bloodlines are magical and very sick. And very distorted and infiltrated with the Rothschilds and just a total complete mess or whatever happened, reptilian infiltration. And so we have this whole thing of like wanting to clean this whole thing up. But I think that's kind of what we're doing, understanding that the DNA isn't a set thing like they want us to think. The DNA is alive. But the toxicity and the stagnancy and the materialism and the technological quarantine is like keep making our DNA stagnant, not spin, not move, not explore its potential, right? And this is who we are, right? Maybe that's the whole issue with what happens when we walk into a room sometimes. And all of a sudden, it's like some reaction to some energy or some sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, because we're putting a spin on that shit, Maybe that's the deal with this Grand Water Trine. It's like getting enough of a spin going to get out of the eddy, And so that it's really powerful. So from the middle of November all the way until the middle of December, there is this influence of a Grand Water Trine with Mercury 3 times and Mars already did, but Venus, the Sun, and Venus. And so it's really powerful that Venus will be doing this, exchanging kind of like the Sun and Mercury did with their opposition with Uranus and their conjunction with Black Moon Lilith. And so now the Sun or the Mercury and Venus are coming into a conjunction. And Mercury is coming, or Venus will be going in. Yeah. So Mercury just came out of the Grand Water Trine, and Venus is just going into the Grand Water Trine. And there's these next few days of magic where they're both in the Grand Water Trine together. Because they meet up at 22 degrees on the 25th. And we've got Jupiter at 24 degrees, Saturn at 25 degrees. So they're still very close in trine. Black Moon Lilith at 27 degrees. So it's a big shift on December 3rd when Black Moon Lilith will make it to 28 degrees of Scorpio, because it's kind of inching its way out of that Grand Water Trine. But this is the deal with all of these transits. So all these planets who have gone in the trine have also made these other transits. Opposition, first a trine with the North Node, beginning the whole story, and then an opposition with Uranus, and also a trine with Neptune. And so all of this personal planets going back and forth, like the sun did, between an opposition with Mercury and a conjunction with Black Moon Lilith. Opposition with Uranus, conjunction Black Moon Lilith. And the sun and Mercury took trading places with that, bringing us into this energy of the exact opposition of Black Moon Lilith and Uranus. Black Moon Lilith, and it's crazy because Uranus is just not that long, only a few more months of Uranus in Taurus. And so this Black Moon Lilith opposition is like, are we gonna get this? Are we gonna really see the truth? Are we really willing to dive deep enough to actually find the treasure? Because most of us are willing to stop at the first shiny item that brings a little bit of relief, But it's like we want the true gold within. We don't want a little relief from our trauma programming, right? Because the trauma programming is trying to push us into behavior. They want us to see like trapped in technologies, trapped in lower vibrations and bad feelings and harassment and struggle and pain and shame. And so it's a radical act at this time, to claim your joy and your peace. But that's the most powerful thing we can do. Now, I think that's the energy, because it's like, okay, Black Moon Lilith opposite Uranus. Uranus is like about uncovering that hidden wealth, and Uranus is, we know, moving back into Gemini and already has that energy of Gemini. And so it's really about, no, we're not going to just find the treasures. We're actually going to tell the people about them. Then they can never be hidden again, right? Full disclosure of all the lies. Because it was only because these spiritual lies, the hiding of the truth, that we could be controlled through religion. And so it's all got to change. That's the brick wall that we're up against. And it just feels like this is Black Moon Lilith opposite of Uranus and Taurus. Like our treasures are tied up under the darkness. Because those forces don't want to be exposed. Because as soon as they're exposed, they'll be eradicated. And so it's like Oz behind the curtain, but it only takes one moment and one little dog, one little pure energy of mother's love to pull back the curtain and see the truth. And it can never, ever be covered up again, And that's the energy of Black Moon Lilith opposite Uranus, which is exact at 28 degrees from December 3rd to December 11th. And then we will have Venus makes that opposition on the 30th of November, when it's the same day Mercury turns direct. It's so powerful because Mercury is making 3 of those oppositions with Uranus. And so that means there's 6 altogether, because Mercury made 3, and Venus, Mars, and the Sun. So we've got 6 hits of our personal planet in this opposition. So it's very important. And the final one will be Mercury opposite Uranus on the 11th of December, just before moving over back into Sagittarius, right? So it's like the final face down meetup, grab the treasure and go, right? Me and my uncle. And so basically, it's so powerful, this energy. And we want to really look at this because these whole dynamic thing between Black Moon Lilith and Uranus is just bringing Black Moon Lilith and Uranus into this exact conjunction. And at the same time, we've got the we'll be coming into the second exact between Jupiter and Chiron. Jupiter in Cancer, trying to expand us into love, nurturing, the mother's way, care, healing, coming back into the fold, and then, but retrograde, and Chiron in Aries. In the first time they met, that was the second part of October, Chiron was retrograde, but Jupiter was not yet retrograde. So now they're both retrograde for this meeting, and that's from December 19th through 27th. And so these overlap, right? So December is so intense because on the one hand, we've got Venus in the Grand Water Trine. We'll be feeling that all the way, and then Mercury again in the Grand Water Trine, all the way through the middle of December. We've got Grand Water Trine, beautiful energies, but we also have Jupiter square Chiron at the same time as Black Moon Lilith opposite Uranus. But we're forgetting about that other transit that's happened so fast with our personal planets. But with these slower moving planets, it's bringing it to the fore. And so this is the trine with Neptune in Pisces. And so Uranus is at 28 degrees. So Black Moon Lilith opposes Uranus at 28 degrees from the 3rd to the 11th of December. And then Black Moon Lilith will trine up with Neptune after that at 29 degrees. Neptune only goes back to 29 degrees in this retrograde. And Neptune turns direct on December 11th. So it's really powerful that Black Moon Lilith will be trining up with Neptune just after, so they're in trine, but their exact trine isn't until after Neptune turns direct, right? So this is very powerful because Black Moon Lilith opposite Uranus is like the truth has got to be told about the darkness that's hiding our wealth from us, the shame that's keeping us from feeling worthy of it. And the secrets and the lies and the control, and so it's so intense, right? But then it's like the very next chapter is the exact trine with Neptune. And with Neptune having just turned direct, it's like this basically a opportunity to come out of the delusions of the past, right? To like really see clearly the delusion, like just to like, whoa, that was a strange movie that I bought into, right? And that energy is going to continue through the next meetup in January of Mercury and the Sun, right? It's like a really great revealing that we're living through right now. And can we be at the helm of this? Right? Can we be leading the way in the way that Mother said that we're here to do, and be in the disclosure, to be in the revealing, to be open, to change our minds, to see things differently, to not make any certain judgment before we know more information, and yet be completely flexible like the water, but actually that requires holding the purified dream of the original code. So we are that purification code, and we're like willing to go with the flow, but we're not willing to get off of the path of her way, the mother's way, the way, there's all of the prophets have talked about. And this is something that's really powerful for supernova souls. This theme coming up of like how we get out of the Stockholm syndrome of being, we have no idea to the extent that we've been psychologically and psychically handled, and that we don't feel. The main thing that happens when you try to leave a handle or a situation is that you'll get this overwhelming, oppressive energy. Because the mind control is based on trauma, and they've been able to identify the specific areas of the brain that trigger trauma responses. And so it's like they'll use this triggering of trauma responses to, it's all about changing your behavior, right? And so the triggering of trauma responses after you leave a handler, it's like a really oppressive feeling, like you're not going to survive without them, you know. Something really bad's going to happen to you. You're not safe. You don't have the resources you need. You're not safe. You're completely alone. A guilty failure energy, right? And it's like, I'll do whatever. I'll say. So trauma programming is like, I'll do whatever I need to do to avoid the next trauma, right? It's a threat, a continual threat. So it's like our nervous system is living in this continual threat of trauma. With every day, a new Armageddon, a new way for planetary destruction to happen, and all of this. And so it's like our dream and our potential and our magic has been hijacked. And then we've been fighting to get it back. And now is this turning of the table and turning of the tide where it's like sitting down and being that law of mother's love in our lives. No more running, no more fighting. It's such a huge transition. It's a nervous system transition. And in order to heal trauma in the nervous system, you have to have a new and different environment that allows for a peaceful unwinding of your new nervous system. You can never heal this is part of the trauma trigger, right? You can never relax and heal. You're constantly distracted and you can't do the beautiful energy work that you came here to do. So this is what's dismantling in our psyche right now is the trauma triggers. And there is not a better time to heal this than through this Grand Water Trine. So make the most of this next couple of weeks. It is so powerful with Venus going through this trine and making all of these transits. Venus is going to trine up with Neptune the same day. They'll still be at 29 degrees on the 30th. So the day that Mercury turns direct. Venus exactly opposite of Uranus and exactly trine to Neptune. And that is this unveiling and revealing of these. It's the end of the road for keeping the feminine mysteries hidden and cutting out the balance, right? Because maybe that's the whole deal. Like, is this thing that of basically using powers to control other people, when that magic was only meant for healing and support. And so again, it just comes back to this massive alignment, and maybe that's what Jupiter's deal really is in Cancer. It's like align with the mother. She's a sentient being. Your body's her body. Everything's saying that you built all these temples so that you could understand how to make your body work for you as your vehicle. And so the purification is the absolute essential place we have to start. But the purification is not just the grief and the pain, right? And healing and releasing. It's about understanding the truth, coming out of the delusions. Neptune in Pisces is about a complete replay of the delusions of the Piscean age in order to free ourselves from them. And then we had a little break of Neptune in Aries. And it was like, oh, wait. It's like this whole realization within our being that everybody around us is wanting to be us in this finite, limited experience of materiality. And we're like, oh, wait, there is so much more to this story, because Aries represents the full and total potential of what's possible. And it's like, oh, wait, I was stuck in just the same old delusion patterns and have I been stuck in these same delusion patterns because I didn't complete my karma? Or is it because I'm became too far in trying to not create karma that I didn't stand up for myself and I avoided conflicts, I avoided my will, and I avoided the opportunity to stand with mother's authority, Is it this such a great fear of trying to atone for our sins that we can't balance our karma? Or are we trying to balance what we don't know that we're atoning for? What? It's so hard in these deep, confusing karmic situations that we're in right now. It's really hard to tell, who's the oppressor, who played the role of oppressor and who played the role of oppressed? And are both of us sides oppressed, right? Like both sides of every war funded by the same enemy of us human, we the people. And so we're dealing with this in our psyche. And, you know, the thing is that we're kind of waking up to the dream of the simulation. And they say in dreams that every character you meet is a part, an aspect of yourself. And this is what's starting to happen, is all these characters and these stories playing out in our life and understanding the past life story and being like, oh, I can see the many faces of God, right? Playing out these roles, and that whatever pain might be caused in the strained situation that seems like absolutely wrong could be exactly the thing that catapulted that seer or prophet into their ability to bring forward for humanity. And so who's at fault? But how do we lessen the harm? You know, how do we allow for natural decay rather than destruction, healing, and softness and harmony? And that's the thing. It's like we've been thrown back into the dungeon with this Mercury going back into Scorpio, but there's the Grand Water Trine. So mom's there and it's her cave, and you've been transported to mother's womb, and you're healing in her Addie in her arms. You think you're in the dungeon, but you're actually in the wilderness 40 days, you know, like being in that healing, regenerative, rejuvenative rebirth, and then waking up and seeing that there's a doorway has been opened out of that dungeon. You've created yourself by not being scared of it, not running from these shadows, and also being willing to drop what's not yours, separating the wheat from the chaff, and be like, wait, I think I could be trying to process karma that's not mine, or I could be taking on pain that's not mine. This is really important because part of the gift of the soul work you've done, Supernova Soul, is a refining of your energetic field. This is what we come to understand in owning your energetic field. It's not teaching how to own your field. It's helping you remember that you already have these skills you've worked with, these mysteries. You know this stuff already. But the gift of that, being able to hold your field, and I guess this is everything that, as we're talking about freeing Mother Earth and coming into our own, we must come into our own autonomy to move into the Aquarian age. Mother Earth has to be free from the parasitic forces that we've allowed to steal the energy and misuse it on discordant, these energies that go against, so the Saturn taking over is this kind of like harassment, the energies that are going against the natural flow, right? It was like, let's take the natural calendar that keeps them in alignment and change it up so that they can never get their circadian rhythm, right? Let's keep them in completely consumed with material, searching of material possessions for survival. And so they can't think. So we've been like that Saturn energy changing the time and the calendar and history and all that. And it's like this kind of zigzag, jig-jag, round, hard corners and distractions and wrong paths and turns and, and so this alignment of reclaiming back Saturn, I guess maybe that's the energy of this trine. So it's powerful as we come into this time of getting ready for Saturn to turn direct. So Saturn turns direct on November 28th, and Mercury turns direct on November 30th. And that's the same day that Venus will be in that very powerful message for us, opposite Uranus, and then coming into trine with Neptune. So we've got to get the feminine out of the dungeon. And the only way we can do it is with revealing the treasures. We have to find the treasures in order to reveal the truth. But then Venus right into that trine with Neptune and kind of reminding us and triggering the energy of Black Moon Lilith in that trine with Neptune and reminding us that it's all a dream. Okay, it was a bad dream, but it's all a dream. And she still has, the thing about all the stuff we've lost, and I know supernova souls have gone through a time of like the tide going out, right? And like losing so much, walking away from the castle again and again, right? But the thing that we're here for is soul growth and strength, because that's how we run our vehicle. Right? None of that material shit is going to run your vehicle, right? So the soul growth aspect it's incredibly, it's just important to remember that this is what we're doing here. And it's like this timeline alignment of Mercury going back in the beginning of Sagittarius is just like this like that hooking back in, like it's hovering, the city of light, this possibility, this potential mother's original dream, it's hovering, and we're like reaching up, like pulling it down and, entertaining and seeing the doors open and possibilities and dreaming. And it's like, then it's just like allowing in that surrender in our own lives, the ego death in order to bring in the new, and then this kind of anchoring in of these new possibilities, right here in our own reality, right here in our own field, right here in that energetic autonomy, and all the possibilities of all these technologies, because that is our true wealth. But this whole thing of all this happening with Uranus at the end of Taurus and going back into Gemini is saying that you cannot share with the world the secrets until you get it aligned with the true wealth. So the secrets were misused because they're not aligned. They're not with the keepers of the secrets. They're not with those that can align and support and harmonize. It's like just feeling of all this wealth and what's rightfully land, that's rightfully and rulership and treasures that's rightful, their rightful stewards, returned to their rightful stewards, right? And so your treasures, your psychic treasures, your energetic treasures that have been infiltrated and stolen, returned to you. And so this is a powerful picture. She's saying that just know that this is so intense to receive back who you are in these gifts this December. Like understanding who you really are. There's no getting away from facing who you really are. Who you've been in past lives, the soul work you've done, you can't run from it. And so that's kind of the energy of December with the journey of Mercury coming out of retrograde shadow. Like I said, Mercury will go into Sag on the 12th and come out of retrograde shadow on the 17th, leading us right into solstice energy. And very powerful solstice this year with Black Moon Lilith completing the time in Scorpio and moving into Sag. So that like resurgence and the phoenix coming up from that darkness and into the light of day, into the clarity, the darkest dark, not scared to be seen in the light and purified through fire. So that's a big shift. And right before that, the solstice, which is on the 21st, and but the solstice soul group session, I hope you can join us. It'll be a group session, a group intuitive session looking at shared past life pictures. That's going to be on Saturday, December 20th, the day before the solstice. And so the day before that, on the 19th, is the Sagittarius new moon. And so the Sagittarius new moon will be happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, again, the very end degrees of the sign. So this is a full, huge culmination energy of what we have learned from the Mercury retrograde and this whole evolution, right? So it's like we're getting closer to the top of the mountain to get that way, way bigger view. And it's also this concentric circles of realities, right? Like, oh, I was seeing it so narrow. And this is And the reality we're really being called to look at through this time period is this whole bigger story through the whole evolution. And putting these pieces together and understanding that we're just, it's almost like these concentric circles. And it's just like these are these characters that we're all playing, all the characters in the movie, you know, so they all are come down to the whole, they're all within the whole, you know. And so also our timelines are all nested. So it's really intense. It makes me think this, I just really feel this solstice, of course, all the solstices in the last years have been very powerful, but with Black Moon Lilith moving over Scorpio, Sagittarius, it's incredibly powerful solstice, especially with that Sagittarius new moon, right? So the sun and the moon. Now we have another lunation. The Gemini full moon is the next lunation, and that's going to be Thursday, December 4th. It's on the 4th or the 5th in the world. The activation will be Thursday, December 4th. That Gemini full moon is happening at 13 degrees of Gemini and 4 minutes. 13, 1 and 3, you add it up, it's 4. So it's like 4, 4, and 4 is about establishing. And 13 is that number of the mother. Mary Magdalene, the feminine teachings, the mysteries that have been turned into curses and spells, which were meant to be miracles and blessings, right? The difference between a miracle and a blessing versus a curse and a spell is the intent, you know, but it's also just the agenda. The minute we're trying to put our personal agenda into anything, we're not allowing the full flow of Mother's creation energy, you know? And so maybe that's where we're self-correcting, going from the healers, like we said, where we were interfering, we were trying to correct, we were trying to make it better all the time. And we needed to maybe let the karmic forces make their way, but still not go too far the other way where we weren't acting when we were called to act either, in alignment with Mother. You know, so the curses is the same thing of the magic being used for ego, right? Like it's an agenda, and it's also got deliberate harm, right? It makes me think of what came through. I think I talked about this recently with and also Rudolf Steiner said, when talking about karma, it's really important to understand, and this is how we're undoing the trauma programming of the Piscean age and structured religion of shame and blame. And that when you, that, I forgot what I was going to say. So it'll come back to me. So we're undoing this, and this is exactly the energy, actually, of the Gemini full moon, because it happens at that 13 degrees is right on that day, the 4th of December, is when the nodes move to 13 degrees. So this is halfway between the eclipses with a square, because the eclipses happen when the sun and the moon line up with the nodes of the moon, and this is when they're in the square. So halfway to the next set of eclipses. A very, very powerful Gemini new moon, full moon, because it's that turning point, right? And so the fact that the nodes make it on that day, because the nodes move backwards, right? And so the nodes may make it that day on to 13 degrees, and that's exactly where the Gemini full moon happens. So that means that the full moon will be in Gemini, the sun in Sagittarius, in exact square to the nodes of the moon. So that means they call that a grand cross. So it's a grand mutable cross, and that says that it's a crossroads, and yet mutable energy is all about adjusting. And that's what she was saying too, like this is a time of rapid adjustment, shedding the skin. You don't know which way you're going to need to move to get that thing off of you, right? Might take some wiggle room, you know. You're making wiggle room, permission for you to be in your true potential in this year of the snake. So that Gemini full moon with that in an exact square with the nodes of the moon is just so intense. And so we've got the North Node in Pisces, saying that the squares are saying what's keeping us from moving forward into the dream, into the mystery, the magical. Oh, we've got to get out of the delusions, right? And then Virgo, South Node Virgo, it's about completing our mission, overcoming the failure, and completing our mission to free and heal the earth and come back to. It's not just about freeing and healing the earth, though. It's about doing what we came here to do and dance with her in the creative process and this beautiful creation adventure, now that we're moving it up to another level and we're getting rid of the distractors and detractors because they can't vibrate at this resonance, right? You know? And so we're leveling up is the energy of that Gemini full moon. And so it's so powerful because we'll also be feeling Black Moon Lilith opposite Uranus and trine and kind of coming into that trine with Neptune. And we'll also be feeling Jupiter square Chiron. So it's that feeling of being up against a wall, and yet there's miracles and magic that can get you out of this. Because for this full moon, of course, the sun is in Sagittarius. So we're looking at the mission, the greater, wider mission, right? And vision and view and expanse of 13 of the feminine mysteries that have been hidden. And so we're trying to get a greater understanding. It's like, oh, this is the whole deal, right? Like, we're stuck. We can't get out of this until Mary Magdalene shows us how to dematerialize and we can move through the wall, you know, like we're stuck. That's a feeling of this. Like if we don't come, because the stuckness in the corner is about being forced and pushed into our creative power, to using it, showing it the righteous way, not out of anger, trying to cause harm or wrath, like that old God, right? That's the old God, the old Saturn, this control. But the new God, the mother God, the original God, a goddess, a creation energy, is being so strong and so powerful in the righteous energy of truth of the moment that is the only authority you will ever need, you know? Mom does not fight her own battles. The forces do it for her, you know? But it's this thing of like, again, how can we? She says you got to put down the weapons, though, and come out of the battle. And how do we do that? Understand that we still are having to fight, but it's this internal battle on a cellular level for the dream and the vision and that DNA purification and stepping into that whole new level of what's available for us. This seems to be the focus of all the events that we've done. Very powerful new moon in Scorpio. That's very powerful energies of clearing and healing and clarity around, especially being a leader. And so I guess this is all the dynamics we're dealing with karmically as supernova souls, right? Because it's like, if you're going to be a leader and you're going to cause harm, then you're going to create karma and you're going to lose your riches. And if you're going to be a leader and you're not going to stand up for yourself, then you're going to lose your kingdom and your riches. And so how do you protect your kingdom with a mother's authority? Let's just ask because we got this, you know, Moses came through with these rules and laws about how to exist, the Stockholm Syndrome, how to get out of prison. And this is, like I said, we're kind of in this parallel moment where I think as supernova souls, part of the branding energy is around how do we be free psychically? You know, because we don't know how to be free psychically. We didn't know how handled and manipulated we've been. And so part of the laws and rules of mother and the vision of mother's love and what supernova souls are here to do, there's kind of almost like a handbook of like how we reclaim our psychic autonomy and feel worthy of it. And they're like kind of a new handbook, a new brand, a new understanding. Because in the Edgar Cayce readings, it came through again and again that all the karma is fixed through cooperation. Everything done wrong in a past life, if there's some conflict between people, it's like if they can come together and work together on a project, then all is healed. But we can't come together and work together on a project until we can purify and be harmonious and autonomous within our own being. And so we're at this challenging moment where we know we need to come back together. But it's requiring a great purification on all levels in order for us to feel worthy of the abundance of each other and the abundance of the material. So what you're working on right now, the karma that's kind of trying to work out, is around leadership. It's around responsibility. It's around whatever's in the way of the money and the people coming to do what you came here to do. We're all missing the money, the resources, and the people, right? And it's that whole kind of collaboration in order to, that's the absolute key, coming together. And so it's a solution to everything. And yet, no wonder it's been so blocked. So it's an incredibly powerful time right now. It's kind of one of those dynamic moments day to day where, yes, it's ego death. We're in free fall, but mom's catching us. We want to be ready. We want to be purified. We want to be healed. We want to say yes. We want to go ahead and close those doors of the old repeating patterns triggered by trauma and stop running from the deep emotions that are suppressed that might be re-triggering us, being willing to face deep hidden psychic memories and disturbances and get going on the remedy and the healing of why we came, and what we're doing here. And instead of just spinning our wheels around and around. And that's kind of how it's felt. But it's like, well, sometimes you got to spin your wheels around and around because we're in an eddy. We're being purified because that's the structuring, structuring of water is so powerful to invite the original structure of what it's like for the water to flow through all the rocks and stones in nature. And it has a certain polarity in the molecular structure. And so you can recreate this and invite this to be created through technologies. And those technologies are using spin and spin ratios. And so that's maybe what we're doing in the eddy, because there's a place in the eddy where you don't know, you can't tell whether you're, with the river, because the river's going one way, but the eddy's going the other way, and you're going with the river, against the river, but you can't, then you don't know which is up from down, and you don't know even which side is flowing, at all, or one way or the other. And so, but there's a great purification happening, right? And a great realignment. And so, and a great surrender to what's coming, right? To being like, all right, it's a humbling and being like, all right. But what if it's been so excruciatingly painful, so incredibly dark and confusing, so incredibly alone and isolating, only to prepare for the magnificent chapter that's coming? It can be the only solution, because you can feel these controls lessening and lightening, and this kind of energy of us, yes, we can learn how to be free. And this is the energy of the visioning sessions. And I'm so excited to do this again. We did 4 visioning sessions in November, and we're going to do 4 visioning sessions in Fridays in December. And these are walking in Mother's Garden, listening to Mother Earth. And it's this whole thing. It's this beautiful mystery of this guidance and this brand and this understanding, that ideal that came through that Edgar Cayce readings around that in order for people to collaborate and work together, which is what is needed, we've got to get behind an ideal. And so it's an opportunity for us as supernova souls to be like, what is our ideal? What is we're working for? What? Because we need to be able to talk about it. We've had enough of these falsely constructed, control-based religions based on patriarchal models. We need something new and different, something to catch the people, something real and authentic and true. And so we're talking about these natural laws. And what are those natural laws? And how do those natural laws help us to get the roadmap to protect ourselves and heal ourselves? And mostly right now, it's time to prepare ourselves for the path of leadership that lies ahead. So this is the goal of the Supernova Soul Tribe from the beginning, and it's been hard through all the forces to, the zigs and the zags, but all of those, what we got, the message we got is that all of those obstacles, zigs and zags and Saturn operating, can't go this way, can't go that way, got to go roundabout, got to deal with these obstacles, got to have an arch nemesis, but those are the physical obstacles of this physical world, and they actually serve to strengthen the spiritual impulse. And that spiritual impulse that's been strengthened in you from all you've gone through over all these lifetimes is only getting stronger, and no one can take it from you. And that is your wealth and inheritance. And so can we sit in the authority and be like, well, I'm not going to go along with your lies. And so that means I'm probably revealing the corruption. And typically there'd be a response of like, they're, punishment, and they're coming after you, and we want to get rid of you or whatever. But it's like, no, I'm just here in Mother's authority. I'm sorry if that is stressful for you. But she's calling us home, and her voice is getting so strong. And it's really the only thing that matters for supernova souls right now is to come home in this feeling, whatever it is. You can put it to whatever words you want. Creator, source, Father. But Mother is most accessible because she's a divine being incarnate. Sentient, divine being incarnate. We get to walk upon our Mother. Is this the deeper mystery with Mary and the Immaculate Conception? Is that we can only be reborn and walk with Mother when we purify and walk with Mother? So anyway, I invite you to these December visionary sessions, Fridays in December, and there's sliding scale, very affordable. It's so wonderful to have you with us to be in this crafting stage as Mercury moves through those early degrees of Sag, and it's like, okay, what do we see from the top of the mountain? Because supernova souls, we've had to go recluse, we've had to hide, we've had to study, we've had to learn, unlearn, heal, die again and all that. But it's been about our own journey, and we're coming to the place where we know we want to have, the whole point of having the gifts and skills, treasures that we have is so we can share them with humanity, and serve and help the way we've wanted to. And so that's the process that we're in. And so the Supernova Soul Tribe, all about supporting us individually and collectively to step into this greater potential and share what we have with the world. And it's going to be greatly received, way different than before, so I guess that's part of the preparation. She says it's turning on a dime, and it's like whiplash, right? It's a quick turnaround going from feeling rather worthless to stepping into a position of leading, So we're coming to this point where if we're going to go and lead and be in the world, and Supernova Tribe can help us prepare to be leaders, what are we telling the people? What's our message? What do we even have to say to them? What's the point, And so this is where this branding and this crafting of this ideal and this message that we can really align with and all get behind in a way to talk about it and say it so that we can take the message to the masses. Take the mother's love to the masses, and we know it's through energy and vibration and frequency, but also the banner and the words and that ideal, that we can recognize within our being, that original code, and be able to synthesize our understanding of it and craft this vision, remember this together, and come back into each of our roles in the bigger picture of what we're doing, because we have planted seeds through this whole evolution, and now they're starting to sprout. And that's such a beautiful energy of relief. She says, you don't have to figure it out, you have to it's just about remembering. We already figured out all the systems and all the plans and all the ways we want to do things, and these different projects that we could only do for a short amount of time. It was small groups of people, but those seeds were planted, and now Mother's responding, and the primary waters are coming up to nourish and fortify her children's dreams, to get back on track, Doesn't it feel good to get back on track? You have been so derailed, and this time of December. It's like, okay, there's no denying who you really are. And so getting back on track, what does that mean? It's getting on track with who you really are. And it might be getting your life together in a way that you didn't think was possible. You've been struggling against all these forces that's made it so hard to take care of yourself, to follow through with your spiritual desires, time for meditation, like the life you want, like to move forward, and bravery and putting yourself out there. You know, like a lot wants to fall together around that in December. So let's stay connected. So that's one way to do it, to be part of that visionary group. And there's information to sign up for that in the information box below. We're also having regular Zoom meetings with the SuperNova Soul Tribe. And the SuperNova Soul Tribe membership, $20 a month, gets you into both the new and full moon activations of each month. Great deal. And then we can get together with these Zoom calls and start to talk about that brand, but also like feel into each other, get to meet each other, and learn and practice putting ourselves out there for each other, bring forward our healing gifts, what we've experienced, our stories, you know, get more confident using our voice with each other, that leadership training for supernova souls that we all need. And it's cool that we also have we've been having a lot of corresponding contract clearing for like group responsibility and stuff like that on the psychic level has been holding us back. So it's a perfect time for us to begin to work on who we are in the group, like what's our greatest gift to offer, and how does that fit in with the other group, and what's a bigger project, you know, our little piece of the bigger puzzle. We can't see the bigger puzzle from just our little piece. We can't see the picture. And that is a beautiful energy of what the Sagittarius new moon, Gemini full moon, and Mercury coming out of retrograde and heading into that Sagittarius new moon and the solstice. So it's a very powerful month ahead, and it goes ongoing in that January parade and leading us into the activation of the year of the fire horse, you know, where it's time to gallop and get going. And Mars doesn't mind that. The energy right now, today and tomorrow, we've got Mars in square. So this is a precursor to the energy of the Gemini full moon. Mars is now coming in to square with the nodes of the moon. And that is on the 24th and the 25th. And we'll be feeling that all the way to the end of the month. So Mars square the nodes, and it's that gridlock feeling, like we cannot, because Mars wants to go and move. In Sag, it's like, finally, I see where I'm going. Get out of my way, you know? But square the nodes, it's like, no. If you're going to work out of the delusions of the past, you're going to end up on the dead-end road. You know, if you're not aligned with the true vision of what we're really here to do, which is clean up the earth, then you're going to end up on a dead-end road. We don't have time for games and distractions. That's the square with Mars and the nodes. And then that one goes to the 29th, but that's the day Mercury turns direct, Saturn turns direct the 28th, Venus is in that dynamic transit. So it's just like boom, 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 boom. Don't get too attached to any one thing that's happening, because your emotions, your energies will shift quickly. And so it's all about that rapid adjustment, that like, okay, I'm in the eddy. I don't know what's up from down or back, left from right, or upstream, downstream. Who knows? But I'm here. I'm healing. I'm purifying. And then there's that picture of the power of the dynamic, specific lesson or karmic journey or learning that you're dealing with right now. And it has to bloom so big that it can catapult you, that pattern itself can catapult you out of all the patterns. So enjoy that big pattern, and it might feel like an eddy where you're going around and around, but at least with this Grand Water Trine, it's buffered, it's harmonized, it doesn't hurt so much. You don't have to bang up against so many rocks this time, you know, and ask for help. The veil is thinning to our true spiritual help and guidance and alignment, everything in alignment with our higher self. But wow, I've been hearing of so many visitations, visions and visitations, and experiences of flashing pictures of past lives and hidden, suppressed memories. You know, so it's like you can't process any of that or heal any of that or or allow for any of that without that quiet meditation time. So that's really, really called for us right now. And just don't miss a moment of this harmony. It's just so intense, the tension transits of Jupiter square Chiron. We've come to the end. That mother she either has to fight to free herself of this parasite or lose her body, you know? She's got to stand up and free herself, and she's got her final throes. Or, I mean, it's the monster's in its final throes, and the mother's energy is having a creative surge, you know? I could see that creative surge that completely eliminates the parasite from Earth, the energy of Saturn and Neptune moving back into Aries. Now, Neptune moves back into Aries on the 27th of January, and Saturn moves back into Aries on the 15th of February. So that makes January and February like, it's almost like takeoff. And then it's up to you, or it's up to us, to kind of stabilize in that higher vibrational possibilities. You know, to find a step to stand on, to get used to it, to be able to find your footing to take the next step. But that Jacob's ladder, that higher dimensional transformational energy is like that open door to heaven, you know, to heaven on earth. That's what's happening here, right? We're incarnating that city of light. This is, I mean, what if? Because it's like Yeshua said, you can do what I can do and more. And he's showed us transfiguration and transmutation of the physical body into the light body. And then it's like the second coming, we've gotten the message that it's actually us incarnating our Christ light body as a group. So if we're all doing that as a group together, then that's like the mother donning her robe, right? And so our body as her body, it just becomes a beautiful, just a very powerful, deep, mysterious, and beautiful image that we can work with as we become the bride and the Christ and the pillar of light in between the sacred marriage chamber, and see this beautiful purification of ourselves and Mother Earth happening, you know, as she finally says yes to herself and her children, and no to the monsters and oppressors. That there's opportunities to level up, but there's no more conceding to those forces that continue to do deliberate harm outside of proportion of karma, I guess. And that's Saturn going so out of balance. Gotta get back into balance. And that's a big picture I've been seeing too, of her saying that this time is all about finding balance and equilibrium. And because our foundation is changing moment to moment, so it's about continually finding balance and equilibrium through these changes. And incredible help you can be, and you are, just by existing for your community and your family, everyone around you. You know, the work you're doing is just so profound in holding space through this transition. So thank you, SuperNova Soul, and thank you for your support. I hope to see you at those visionary sessions on Fridays. And then we've got the Gemini full moon on next Thursday, December 4th. And we'll be looking for a solstice soul group session on December 20th, and on the 19th of December, the Sagittarius new moon. And so those are these great events that we have to keep ourselves really in alignment and conscious of these incredible energies. It is such a powerful time to be alive and to live through this. Do not lose sight of it. The Water Trine says, do not lose sight. Like, yeah, so you're spinning around in the unknown, and it's like feeling the squeeze of the pull in different directions. But you're also just could stop and take in the scenery, you know, enjoy the view and connect in that moment. Those little tiny magical moments with nature where time stops, and it's just about you noticing and observing. It's almost like we've had this strange fear at times, like, have we been fed? Have we been abducted and we're not even on Earth, and this is a simulation, it's not even a real organic life form? And then, but the thing is like, we know the power of observation that's been shown to us through quantum physics. And this power of observation that was kind of when I was questioning that. She said, well, nature's real when you observe it as real. So if you're just saying, okay, that's the backdrop of my reality, there's some natural things out there, it might not even be real nature. You got to go and connect with that substance. With one substance is a good way to do it, or the grass or the tree. It doesn't take a lot of nature, right? But you got to observe it and be really present with it in order for it to be real. And maybe that's the trick of this whole deal, because we are being so distracted and our attention being put on all these things that are not real to us, so that we can't have a real life, And it's this interesting thing also of being so observed, like that. So we have not been observing, had the space to observe what we want to create and build more of in our lives, right? So we can't make it real. And then on the other hand, we have all this observation of us, constant surveillance, of every human. And that is about building a database of information, a profiling and all this. But it's also about this psychological paradigm where you're always being watched. Now, if you're always being observed, and it's not a person, it's AI, right? But that feeling of always being observed, there's also gang stalking type thing where there's people watching you, following you, always paying attention to you. It's just a subtle but not so subtle form of harassment, that you can't put a finger on. What if that's all designed to keep us from that? As long as we're being observed and everything we do, it keeps us stuck in the patterns. We can't collapse into a different waveform. We're stuck in the particle form. We have no other possibilities. So in that case, it's really good, and this is good for the mutable cross energy coming up for the Gemini full moon and Gemini energy, the butterfly. It's like a really good fix for this is changing up your schedule and routine. Now, a routine is so important for supernova souls, a regular rhythm, but it's also really beautiful to be flexible. And that's, she says, the whole thing we were talking about before that I don't think I finished around whether, what's the difference between the miracle and the curse? And the curse is deliberate harm. So the curse is agenda from a lower ego. So as long as we have, whether it's deliberate harm or undeliberate harm, if we have an agenda from a lower ego, it's getting closer to deliberate harm. And so it's so difficult to be so strong and so focused and so containing ourselves and yet so flexible, right? With Mother's ways of working and yet not misled. She gives nudges. The control forces coercively manipulate, distract, and use the magic to mislead, right? All the mind control and all that is deep mysteries that are secret understandings that are misused. So we're all under mind control. And until we understand the secret teachings about how they've been stolen and used against us, then we'll continue to be under mind control. I don't know, it's a very strange and exciting time because we're coming to the end of the rope for putting up with, just a lot of distortion on Earth that doesn't fit the true human populace. And we're waiting for this reconciliation and retribution and justice, right? Because it's so we've got some laws to live by, right? But it's always the oppressed standing up to the oppressor, wishing that they could have God's protection, and divine intervention, and then recognizing that the intervention must come from within, and it can't come when we're in that opposition battle. And to me, I'm kind of seeing this pattern of this cat and mouse game of oppressor and oppressed. And typically supernova souls, we've been the oppressed because we can't karmically be the oppressor. It was maybe in previous evolutions, right, when we were learning about those things. And there's this kind of game, and it's kind of like standing up to your oppressor, but it's so the cat is playing with the mouse, but the cat doesn't really want to kill the mouse because the cat is actually getting energy and entertainment from the mouse, right? More than it would from eating it, sucking its energy. And there's actually a real grief when, there's actually can be a real grief when there's this frenemy enemy thing going on, like really intense past life conflict that comes forward in relationships, a lot of times personal relationships, and it's just feel like this knockdown, drag out thing. And it's like, wow, you just want to get out of the battle. You want to get away from the enemy. You just want to escape this. You just don't want to be in this aggressive and the conflict. But then when that conflict still, even when the oppressor is gone, the oppressed doesn't know what to do with themselves, and even like, say, in the story of Moses and freeing the chosen ones and leaving, into the desert from Egypt, Pharaoh said, okay, fine, you can go, and I'll send you away with blessings. But then his ego couldn't stand letting him go. But it was more than that. It was his heart ached for his opponent. If we don't have an opponent, who are we? So it's like a grief, like a lost love. So are we trying to have love relationships with our most dire opponent? It's powerful. And so it's like that Stockholm syndrome of like, well, yeah, I want out of the battle, but I'm so used to the battle and it makes me feel safe, even though it's not healthy. At least it's some sort of structure that I'm used to, and she says, oh gosh, free fall. We got to go free fall and let her catch us. So here we are. This is a lot of what this Grand Water Trine is about. So make the most of this time. It's so powerful, so beautiful, so intense, so dynamic. And remember the energy of this mutable cross, that we're in a continual adjustment to dynamic, sudden changes. And some parts of our life can have time and space to decompose in their own way, It's like something about that juxtaposition with the mother saying it can radically dematerialize and rematerialize, or it can slowly decompose and grow into something new. And there's always these types of forces working. But the deliberate destruction, the deliberate ego, lower self trying to cause harm or control people, Mom says that is no longer available on Earth in this realm. This is her self-preservation. And, but it's coming back to this thing. It's like, well, who's enforcer of the laws, right? We're getting clear on the laws. We want to be righteous. We want to be good. We want to hurt other people. And we're so sick of the bullies that just want to hurt us. And how do we stand up to the bullies without creating more harm, but without getting stuck in the battle, And I think that's the mother's authority. That's what Jesus was working with. It's just authority within the being. This is what we want to see on Mother Earth, this autonomous authority that, like, it just is. You can't argue with it. Ma Durga, the divine feminine manifestation in the Hindu mythology, she is the all-loving mother, and she has all these different personalities and identities, but her most ferocious one is Kali Ma. And Kali Ma is the destroyer. It's the one you call out when there's no other choice and the demons are taking over, the earth is being taken over, you got cancer growing rapidly in your body, you're down to life and death, you can barely breathe, and then you got to call in the big wigs, right? So Kali Ma is called in when Ma Durga is not able to defeat the demons on her own, And so Kali Ma does the dirty work and is the destroyer, right? But still, it's like we have to understand that it's never destruction, it's transmutation. And in her chomping down of the demons and glee, she's sending, like the raven, or the vulture, sending the animal spirit back home. Right? So it's like these demons can't come back and be demons. They can't incarnate in and haunt and come back and, create havoc again and again through intergenerational entity attachments and monsters that inhabit our body when we're too distressed to inhabit ourselves. It's like, no. These monsters have been completely, she's had them for lunch, and they've been completely transformed and transmuted into a giddy joy, right? Like mom's taken back her energy, and there is no thing left. Like that stage of Kali Ma is like that demonic force has no chance of being reborn. And that's when Edgar Cayce says that this is about the planetary realm Saturn in between, as a realm that we go to in between life and when we're in between our lifetimes on Earth. You'll have sojourns, he says, in these different places, but Saturn is about basically being recycled, right? Like being like, okay, whew, you know, I've kind of like exhausted all the possibilities, but the one possibility of going back to light and source and connection is no longer available. So we're going to start over kind of thing, you know, but it's like that soul's already made that choice, you know? And so Saturn, maybe that's that control thing of Saturn. It's like, oh, now you're going to go to hell, right? And to try to just torment us with ghosts and hell and keep the vibration in that black cube, this quarantine on Earth, you know? But it's falling apart. And you know what was so wild in that activation that struck me the most, I keep thinking about, is this picture of these stars. And we were each of these, see it like a supernova star, us as a supernova soul. And kind of a disturbing picture in a way, but like that our stars were holding up the structure of, they were using our stars to hold up this grid-like structure, a dome-like structure, a false grid over our consciousness and over our energy field. And it interacts with our energy field and tries to make us think it's our energy field by triggering kind of like bread dough. Kneading bread dough and being like, poke, ooh, go over here, but that's a false grid, right? And so, but this whole false grid on Earth, it's like they abducted our energy, and we've been abducted on some level because our energy has been being used to hold up this false grid, but it's dismantling. And so what happens as that dismantled, all these sticks and stones, that's that false cube, the false ways of false geometry. And then those stars just fall. And can you imagine? A falling star. And then Mother's like, but I can't catch you unless you fall first. So we're in that place of the dismantling of the structures that we ourselves have been keeping up by playing along with the game. Shame blame game. And so now we shame blame about playing along with the shame game blame. Well, we'll get out of it. It's Eddie, But so we're waking up to all of this and setting ourselves free into what we came here to do and be. And so this astrology is just so incredibly powerful in this purification, in this alignment, in this saying, I'm up against the wall, so I don't have time anymore to think about whether I'm worthy or deserve my power. I better kick it into gear if I'm going to get out of this one, And that's the thing, because remember, what's the point of coming to Earth if you don't have the potential to come into your full potential? It's all we came here to do. We didn't come here to rid the Earth of demons. We came here, yes, to free the Earth, but we came here to come into so that the original dream of what Earth wants to become as an ascension planet is realized. And we haven't even gotten started. And it's so beautiful. So just hold on to this vision, hold on to whatever beauty comes your way, and stop and be in that expansive moment of the garden and appreciate and love and have gratitude, and especially Mother Earth's beauty and being with her and making her real. When we observe her, that's maybe why she's calling out, saying like, talk to me, bring them home to me. The voice is so strong and it only gets stronger. Bring them home to me. How do I do this? What are you saying, Mom? How are we doing this? She wants us to listen and pay attention so that she's real, right? So that she can collapse into her most perfect waveform and get out of the matrix. Quarantine, Faraday cage, And so, but then if we've been like a puppet, like used to hold in a matrix because we're powerful creators, and so they kept us trapped in order to create a trapped reality, but that's falling away, and that beautiful picture of just gravity, just kind of like, oh my gosh, Polly, I don't know who I am or what I'm doing or what's going on. Like, how do I even keep it together? And then she says, until you fall, I can't catch you. And then it's this buoying, and it's kind of like this catching, like, okay, trust and faith, and this levitation. In the Scorpio new moon activation, we talked about the gift of this levitation boots, and so a very beautiful energy of then the levitation and bouncing back up to just your perfect placement in as a star. And so that's what we're doing right now. Thank you so much for being with me and being a part of the Supernova Soul Tribe, and hopefully those visionary sessions. We've got that Gemini full moon activation Thursday, December 4th, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. I also have these great classes, Owning Your Energetic Field and Goddess Activation, pre-recorded video courses, most important quintessential energy on that, owning and claiming this autonomy so that we can be the overflowing cup of love in the world of the manna from heaven that Mother would like us to be. So those courses are available. I have a limited number of individual sessions. So thank you so much for your support. And if you'd like to just make a donation, it would mean so much to me and be so helpful. And there's a link to donate in the information box below. I really appreciate the best offering you can bring is you being here, present, listening to these concepts, sharing on the astral plane, your understandings, coming to the events, being a part of this energy. I couldn't do it without you. And it's so powerful, so beautiful, who we are and what we're doing. And are you ready for the great reveal? So we'll see you on the other side. And I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving in the U.S., honoring the gratitude that we're talking about of speaking with Mother Earth, enjoying and being present with the beauty and the gifts of this world in every moment that we exist. And that's how we open that portal, that doorway into that new Earth reality. So thank you so much for never giving up on that dream and being the powerful supernova soul that you are. I love you so much, supernovas, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.